Good morning, it is bright and early on the Gold Coast in the dead of winter, and John and I are on board the Prestige M48 heading down for the Sydney Boat Show. John, tell us about it.
It's not actually that cold, it's quite nice weather. So we're looking forward to getting out there. It's slack tide at the moment, so 5 a.m. We're going to head out just as the sun's coming up and we'll run to Harbour. So on the M48 with the 420, really looking forward to it. And, just enjoying these boats out to sea. Plan is that we'll be running not through the night because there's no moon at the moment, lots of whales. So looking after these boats, but enjoying the trip. So down to Coffs, probably the next day, I think on to Port Stephens, and then into Sydney the next day. So stay tuned and we'll keep you updated.
In convoy on this trip, we're also joined by the Prestige 420, also on display at the Sydney Boat Show. We have Rowan McMahon and Harry Klutz, our Queensland service manager, on board. They'll be doing some filming as well, and we'll take you all along for the trip on both boats. Enjoy the video.
We're off on our journey. We've left the Gold Coast Seaway just as the sun was coming up this morning. We're just off past Cape Byron now, the most easterly point of Australia, and on to Coffs Harbour. So we should be getting in there, we think, around 3 o'clock this afternoon in good light. The boat itself's been absolutely magnificent. Been mixed sea states, but really it's just super controlled motoring. It's very balanced in terms of economy. Being a multi-hull, obviously great economy. So we're using, I think, I'll just have a look now. We're at 2.4 litres per nautical mile per engine, so combined less than 5. So amazing fuel efficiency, a great feel, riding really well on the ocean, and all around us we've got whales and dolphins, just magic.
Okay, so a bit of a progress update. We're about 30 nautical miles out of Coffs. We'll be there in a short while, but taking us through from the beginning of the day, we had a bit of residual swell from some wind that we had a few days ago early on in the day. And as we made our way down the coast, that flattened out really nicely, and we've been cruising at about 15, 16, sometimes 17 knots. As we made our way further south, we have come into a bit of a headwind. So we have had about 15 to 17 knots southerly come in about an hour ago. Not using too much fuel. We will fill up in Coffs Harbour before we carry on south. So day 2 of this trip down the coast. We were up early this morning after a nice Japanese dinner last night in Coffs Harbour. Today the crews have actually swapped boats. So Rowan and Harry are on the Prestige M48 and John and I are on the 420. We just wanted to give each crew a chance to see each boat in its natural environment and put it through its paces and learn the vessels in a range of conditions. And we've had a mixed bag of conditions today. We started off with a 15 knot southerly, which gradually died throughout the morning and went a little bit westerly, so it flattened out quite nicely. Started off around the 20 knot mark, just to reduce any slamming with the excess chop that we had. But as it's leveled out, and you can see now we've got a bit of a glass out the window. As it leveled out, we're now up sitting around 25 knots, so making very good time. So in terms of fuel consumption, we're burning about 4 litres per nautical mile, which is excellent and gives us quite impressive range, even at 25 knots. One thing we did notice is, the consumption between kind of 19 up to 25 knots doesn't really change per nautical mile. So you're much better off going faster, getting there sooner, and burning the same amount of fuel over the ground covered. We've seen some incredible whales today. We passed a pod of about 10 whales earlier. We were fortunate enough to get the drone, and I can actually see whales just behind us there as we are filming. So it's all happening out here. Next stop is Port Stephens, Nelson Bay tonight, where we will stop for the night again. This boat is capable enough of getting to Sydney, but just with the short days that we're having at the moment and the whale activity, we don't want to run the boats offshore at speed. So better safe than sorry. We'll spend one night in Port Stephens, and then a quick 88 nautical mile trip down to Sydney the following day.
We are in Port Stephens, Nelson Bay. We've just arrived. We've had a great trip down the coast. We left Coffs Harbour this morning at a bright and early 5 o'clock in the morning. 10 to 15 knots straight off the bat, and then eased to a beautiful 5 to 10, down to almost 0 at times as well, which was absolutely delightful. We had a nice cruising speed of 16 to 17 knots, had a bit of a tail current for a bit of it, consuming a nice amount of an even number of around 100 litres per hour. The boat handles perfectly, it's a little bit chilly, got our little winter warmies on, but we had a nice time, music cranking on the inside, plenty of whales to see. We had lots of dolphins today, we didn't have as many dolphins yesterday, so here we are about to go bunker some fuel here in Port Stephens, tie up for the night, grab a feed at one of the lovely restaurants here and call it a day for our last little leg of the journey tomorrow, which should be a nice short few hours down to Sydney Harbour. The Dockmate's a pretty new addition to this boat. As you see, Harry's now giving it a go. It's fun, it's a good little system. So you can be mobile round if there's a short crew on board. Got to have a little play with it off the dock to get used to it, but it's a pretty simple thing and a very easy install by the guys at Dockmate. So thanks a lot, Richard, for getting that sorted swiftly for us.
Good morning, it is day 3 and we are about half an hour out of Nelson Bay. We left there early this morning, 5:30. Noticing as we get further south, it does get dark quite a bit later. It also gets quite a bit colder in the mornings. So John's just down having a nap, but we are cruising. The sun has just come up. We've got a beautiful cloudy sunrise behind me. And we've got about 80 miles to run into Sydney, doing about 17 knots. Sea's nice and flat, and yeah, a light southwesterly wind coming off Stockton Beach, which isn't really affecting us too much, and we're just cruising a light swell behind us. So it's very comfortable. We'll be in Sydney in about 5 hours at this rate.
Here we are, Sydney Harbour, and what a trip that was. Absolutely amazing. If you haven't been offshore, or if you're thinking about it, it takes a little bit of planning, but these boats are perfect for it. Heading up and down the east coast of Australia just makes you want to get back out there and have some more fun, go to more destinations, meet more people. We've met some great fun people along the way. We've had a laugh. Yeah, it's what it's all about, you know, boating at its finest on a Prestige M48, which we're very lucky to be on board, and of course the Prestige 420. So, you know, 2 brilliant boats, both really well proven offshore, and yeah, that's a wrap.